Now is your time to flank.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? I am your moderator, and this is the 13th floor where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing. We got another great show lined up for you today. We're going to be continuing the discussion we had a few weeks ago on depression, and to do that, we have brought in our own professional, Mr. Pervis Taylor. What's happening, sir?
How's everybody doing?
We're good. Hey, man, before we get into the rest of the guys, I want to give you an opportunity to give a little bio of what you do in the field and, you know, how you impact the mental health.
Wow. I have over 7 years of experience as a life coach, and I work with everyone from celebrities to executives to everyday people to young men of color. I just recently completed my master's from Columbia in psychology. And thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Very welcome.
I've come a long way since chaos.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get in a little bit of that. We got Fresh over there. He's like, oh yes, chaos.
But yeah, I really, some of my clients do have, clinically diagnosed mental health issues, and I'm very passionate about the subject, especially when it comes to men of color, because I don't think that there is a loud enough voice or a conversation going on about it. I think there's, some murmurs of it, but I don't think there's any really, really big happening. So like, I'm really, really excited to be here. And I'm, again, it's something I'm very, very passionate about.
Glad to have you, man. Let us not forget, he mentioned chaos, but of course we have another UM alum on the podcast. So go Canes, man. We here all day.
All day, baby. We cover the globe, man. Every area, we got it.
Easy. So let me introduce the rest of my guys, man. As always, we got our beloved intern, Jay Dace. What's up, T.I.?
What it is, young thugger, what it do?
Oh, man. That's what I'm talking about, man. You right up my alley this week. BJ, Mr. Logistics, what's going on?
What's good, man? Glad to be here. Glad to be back. We were off last week, man, but we got to get this show rolling, man.
I know, man. That hurricane was...
what they want.
That hurricane was crazy. We're going to get into that a little bit. Got to get the people what they want. Mike D, Mr. Deacon Rubra, what's happening? Mr.
Rude dog, glad to be back.
Easy. And Mr. Fresh Ovation, DJ Barry B. Fresh. What's going on?
Yes, sir. Hola, como te llamas, all that good stuff. Fresh back with my new tan. Y'all see off vacation after that whole Irma catastrophe. But we here, we in the building, we ready. Fresh Jam of the Week is coming at you.
It's crazy, man, because you had Irma come through, and then like 2 days later, Fresh was like, oh yeah, but I'm still hopping on this plane. I'm going to Mexico. We finna handle this thing, man. We finna have a good time.
There was two things that needed to happen in order for that plane ride to still go down. One was to make sure we still had shelter. The home was, luckily left unscathed. But then the most important thing was making sure we had power. When that came back on within 24 hours, I said, adios. I'm going to be headed to Mexico. So we made that trip.
That was a good self-care move. Ian.
Yes, indeed.
It really was. The same thing I told my girl, like my wife, that our power came back on Tuesday night. I looked at like, they didn't know the reason. I busted my butt on Wednesday. Wednesday night, we was clear. Thursday morning, hopped on the plane, let's go.
And we out.
So if you're wondering why Coach K isn't here, it's because the guys left him in Mexico.
Yep. He didn't make it back.
Yep. But next week, we'll make sure we get all the tidbits of his solo trip and everything. And Faison, he's out, trying to have a baby right now. Congratulations to him and his wife, man. Safe delivery.
Yes.
For all of that healthy baby.
Young AC, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, young AC Faison.
Yes, keeping it cool.
Easy. But about this hurricane though, man. So BJ, you were majorly impacted. Fresh, you were majorly impacted. I saw the videos and the footage and everything. Downtown Miami was a freaking river. You know what I'm saying? How much devastation did y'all have to go through?
We were blessed down here. I can say we got spared a lot of the grunt of it. Community it totally changed. Now you drive to the community, it's like a total different place. You got light. It just feels different because trees are missing and the skyline is just different from trees. But no major damage here. We lost some roof tiles are loose. Got to get that repaired. But other than that, I lost a tree into the neighbor's pool. So for them, it kind of sucked their fence into their pool. But of course, being a neighbor, being a good guy, he helped them clean it up, get it up.
Right.
But yeah, man, we've been blessed. We lost power for 3 days. But we're good now. No complaints.
Easy, fresh. You and the fam all straight up there?
Yeah, I think the craziest thing was the lead up. I don't know that we've had a storm that allowed so much hysteria at the end of the day for so long. We had over a week of shelves being empty, gas shortages appearing, people fleeing their homes and their businesses, that it was a lot to handle compacted into that week. And then for, the spread of where it was going to hit, the type of damage it was going to do, when it was going on, I will say that was definitely one of the most powerful storms I've ever witnessed, as far as, being able to really hear and listen to what was going on, see what was going on. I'm blessed with clear shutters. And so I was actually watching, stuff flying around and seeing the real impact. So it was definitely a powerful storm, and it was a very eye-opening of the possibilities of what we're doing with environmental issues and what we're really doing to the environment that's allowing these type of powerful storms to be created and do the damage that they're causing. So it's very eye-opening to see the possibilities, especially in places that didn't take a direct hit, of how much damage was suffered.
Right. One thing I do want to address, because some people ask, like, y'all crazy for staying, and why'd you guys decide to stay, whatever. But for me, it was family. Me and my immediate family, we could pick up and leave. We had the opportunity to. But my wife, her family is all down here, and my mom and stepfather down here. And it's just not as easy to say, okay, we're going to go and leave you guys not knowing what we're coming back to, right? I'd rather we had everybody at our house. So it's everybody come together, pull resources, and we're going to survive together. But I also want to, because a lot of people that are out of state, they're seeing pictures. One of the things you got to understand is the media is going to make it seem the worst possible measure ever.
Sensational.
They're going to shut
Extreme scenario.
Right. Yeah. So when I had people calling me, I swear, from Tuesday saying the governor said it's an evacuation of the entire state. There's no way they can evacuate the entire state of Florida, first of all.
Where they gonna go? Yeah. The roads?
Exactly. First of all, people don't understand how many people are here, that if everybody got a road, nobody's going anywhere. Secondly, like, you got to realize the disparity of wealth that's in South Florida.
Yes.
Right.
There are a lot of people who can't afford to leave. This is all they have. An extra $50 in gas is going to break them for the next month, 2 months. So
it won't just be that extra 50, because if you remember, like, I heard of stories of people like 14 hours just to get to Orlando.
It was watching the migration.
Where are they going?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Watching the migration. Jason said that he was staying in like pretty much crackhead hotel, after it was all said and done, trying to make that decision on when to leave. I know me personally, it was more based on the fact that I would rather, in a sense, be at ground zero to sort the pieces out than I want to be, somewhere else and not have a true understanding of what's going on with my property. I would rather know and be able to deal with it than to be seeing that, there's a possibility everything was fine with your property, but everybody else around you, had issues. So now they raided your property and you don't have anything, so I didn't want to leave that out there.
Right.
We deal with so much. A lot of the schools I deal with are low income neighborhoods, high poverty, whatever, low SES, no matter what label you want to give it, right? People can't just pick up and leave. It's not that they don't have a choice. So to tough it out, and the type of housing that they have in those situations are deplorable. So when shelters open up, and they had, I swear at Miami-Dade, they had 13 to 15 schools as shelters. Broward had about the same thing. Mm-hmm. This is the only place they have to go. So it's not as easy. People make it seem as easy to pick up and leave, but we're in South Florida. To get out of the state, it's going to take you 4.5 hours on minimum at a normal. In that day, it, like you said, somebody's people was taking 14, 15 hours to get to Atlanta, which normally takes about 6.5 to 7 hours, depending on who's driving. Let's put it that way.
But also too, like these hurricanes are like out of the world. Like they're not ordinary hurricanes. Right. So it's like
correct.
There's no preparation for it. Like there's no planning. And so now I think the city and the city officials now can start to plan and have like better escape plans.
I hope
it's a progressive thing that, you know, every time it's seeing something new and different and then now trying to understand. It's the same, not just understanding the preparation of how, you know, people are going to evacuate, but also preparing, you know, grounds and drainage systems and ways to, you know, combat and you know, increasing building codes and understanding. I think the most relief I had up until the storm was when my neighbor let me know that my house was built to withstand a Category 4 hurricane. Right. And so, you know, exactly. So up until then, I was on the nervous edge of, you know, last thing, I think my biggest fear was, you know, kind of getting the alerts that, hey, there's tornadoes going crazy. Let me, all of us got to jump in this closet now. So we go into the closet, we brave the storm. We, you know, wake up the next morning, open up the door to, you know, like pretty much our closet is the only thing that was standing in eyesight. And you know, that was the type of image that was playing over and over in my head because of the hysteria that the media was putting on the storm. But also seeing the buildup in the fact that, you know, there's never been a Category 4 from, you know, pretty much inception all the way across the ocean. But I think it's also, I live or hold on to, you know, they say that they come the same route as slave ships, and that it's, you know, that spirit, that you know, emotion and everything of all the slaves that have passed, that's the power that it brings.
So for me, I also like to keep in mind that a lot of people in Florida, period, South Florida, they've lived through a lot of these hurricanes. And some of the danger zones are typically like the Keys or some places in the Gulf. Like my family was in Tampa, and, you know, when it was set to hit Miami and the East Coast and ride up, I was really worried about y'all, but then it shifted and it changed to the West Coast. I'm supposed to ride up and work. And so now I'm worried about them as well because they're going to get the brunt of the storm. But when it hits landfall, people hear Category 4, not really understanding what that means as far as like the wind and the rain, if they've never been through it. So like I've been through like several hurricanes. So I know like, yes, it is devastating. That wind will take you off the ground. But if you're in an area where your houses are built to code, you have the preparation or the means to get to a shelter, it's not always something that you can't live through. Now, if you're living on the beach or in downtown Miami where it was like a river basically through the city, you need to move a little bit further inland. But for those people who, you know, make that preparation and then live further inland and aren't in the immediate danger zones or those flood areas, they can absolutely withstand the storm. You just have to be smart in your preparation. So, you know, you can't really go for, like you said, BJ, the sensationalism of the media and everything when it comes to these storms.
But the sensationalism wants to trigger anxiety and trigger fear in people. And I think also why some people also didn't leave is because, you know, like the fight or flight syndrome is like sometimes people, they're not there, they're checked out.
Yeah.
So like they're not aware that this is really happening.
Right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, the impact, and look, there's still empty shelves down here. Like there's still, you'll go into the grocery store and there's nothing,
power, right?
There's still places with no power right now. You will go into the grocery store and there is no frozen food at all. There's no milk at all. You know, like it's still the ripple effect of what happened to people still trying to get back down. You know, the issues with roadways and everything, it's still going to take a long time to recover.
Right. But I know who is loving it. Those University of Miami students who don't got to go back to school till next Monday.
2 weeks.
But they have to make it up though, right?
They probably gonna condense the school year and then do something with the finals or whatever. That's what they did that one year. We got those 3 or 4 hurricanes back to back. We ended up having to take. There wasn't really. They got rid of the reading days, and they almost put it to the option where your teacher or your professors could tell whether you could take your exam or not.
Okay, gotcha.
So they might have to go without having like final exams and just go through the work because it might not be enough time to prep for it.
Gotcha.
Hey, you know what was the craziest part for me, B? Yo, that spider that BJ took a picture of in his backyard.
Man, listen.
Okay, hold on.
We gotta
You trying to make me depressed by
Find
sending
that.
that? No, that was Carol. Actually, it wasn't even you. I'm blaming that one on Carol.
I didn't put it in there.
We gotta throw that on the page, man. We gotta throw that up on the book.
That thing was huge.
Man, the storm that carried some spider from like West Barbuda all the way to South
like
Florida, and now that thing
yeah.
is gonna be down there and creating a whole nother ecosystem. And we finna have some
real
like
talk.
Spawn Dawn of the Dead type junk going on.
That
This
thing was
spider-
like a
this-
good 2-3 inches long. That thing looked crazy.
Oh man,
This thing look like
the
it's looking at
legs
you.
was curling.
It's the spider that made Spider-Man.
Exactly.
That's Venom. That's Venom.
This one just-
He said, "There's no way a good hero comes out of that spider."
That's Carnage.
That's
You know what I
Venom,
mean?
yeah.
That's Carnage. On my life.
But we're glad that everybody made it out safely. We would definitely want to send all our condolences and thoughts to those who are still dealing with the carnage. Make sure that if you can find efforts. We weren't able to find anything prior to the podcast, but I know University of Miami is going to be active within the community. And all of our families that are spread out throughout the state of Florida. Be safe, continue to persevere. That thing is terrible.
I don't know if it's too much light.
Yeah, it's too much light. We're gonna throw it up there on
you see
the
the
Facebook page.
logistics of the body. You get the ideal.
You see the legs on that thing.
It's terrible, bro. I'm having flashbacks already. But moving right along, we want to get into this discussion, man, centered around depression. Since we have Pervis here, one of the first things I want us to do is, I was talking to Pervis prior to the podcast, and you alluded to the different types of depression. So I think we want to go ahead and kind of lay those out for the people first.
Well, you have clinical depression where it's like somebody just naturally is just born with depression and there's nothing that triggered it. They just have it, right? Like some people are born with bipolar. Like if you look under an MRI scan, like their brains look different. That's just, they were born like that, right? And then you have what most people experience, and that is like affective depression, meaning that something externally triggered something to cause them to be depressed. So maybe it's like not meeting a goal. Maybe it could be the downfall of a relationship. It can be losing a job. It can be a hurricane, losing everything. It could be a divorce. I mean, it could be many things, but it's something external that causes the depression.
Okay. And then, how does that, I guess, feed into it? So when the causes or whatever, and these little triggers, like, is it something like inside of us or that's innate that, I guess, counters or keeps us from being able to deal with those situations?
Well, I think a lot of us are unconscious to the fact that we are depressed. We're very good at masking, and social media doesn't help. I had a married couple who were on the brink of divorce, but they were always posting pictures every day like they were happy. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, you guys are about to divorce.
There's
What's
so
going on?
many people living that.
You know what I mean? So it's like
The lie.
you know what it is so many of us we don't want to feel, we don't want to go through. And the way out is through. And so we've been hurt so bad, and we've conditioned ourselves to not deal with the pain, to not deal with things that we push it to the side, we suppress it. And then what happens is that, once a closet can only hold so much, and then we have breakdowns.
Right. And I think one of the big things amongst men is just that. And it stems, we talked about that hypermasculinity situation.
Absolutely.
Where, it's weak to discuss these feelings or these emotions, amongst our peers or even with anybody else who might be able to help us through that situation. When you encounter that with, the people who you help with your life coaching, how do you kind of overcome those things?
Well, I mean, it's hard to break a mindset. That can't be done in one session. That's something that has to be done over time. And neurologically speaking, the neuroscience behind it, our brains are conditioned for negativity, right? Which is why it's easy for you to recall a negative experience quicker than a positive experience. And so what you have to do is what is called neuroplasticity, which is rebuilding the brain for positive experiences. And that's analogous also to a mindset. It's the same principle. You have to build a positive mindset. I just think it's a challenge because it's like, it has to be like a wide conversation as opposed to like an individual thing. You get what I'm saying?
So
Because-
more than just one person, or
Yeah.
you gotta think, okay.
Well, because to really affect change, because the biggest threat to any progress is the culture at large.
Exactly.
So if the culture at large is about hypermasculinity and defining masculinity as this, and you have one person fighting against it, that, you know what I mean? That's an extreme challenge.
And it's really hard to get people to like go to that place of vulnerability, right? You know,
Right. And I was gonna say, and you know, conditioning, especially men, for us to understand that vulnerability is a strength, but you got to be judicious and discerning about who you're vulnerable and what you're vulnerable about. But vulnerability is a strength, because if you're not vulnerable, think about it like this: if you want to succeed in life, you got to be vulnerable to failing. If
right, you got to take chances.
You got to take. It's a risk factor. If you want to be in love, you got to be vulnerable to getting hurt. And if we don't understand that, then we, you know, it's a lot of brothers out there hurting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them out there hurting, and they view vulnerability as a weakness, and and again, it's really a strength.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm really glad, you know, that's the big thing we trying to break down here. You know, you alluded to the group, you know, discussions. I mean, we've alluded to the discussions that they have with 444 and the footnotes, and how Jay-Z kind of laid all of that out, man. It's like, it's almost like we're putting together the pieces to that blueprint, we're building that foundation to kind of overcome some of that hypermasculinity, because the last thing I feel we want as fathers is to continue to pass that down to our children. So, you know, that's where I want to kind of go next, is how, you know, almost the sins of the father affect the son, but how we end up passing that down and how it affects our children, so we can counteract that as well.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Like my father, he passed away from a heroin overdose. But one of the things that he taught me was to be vulnerable and transparent. So I remember he sat us down, me, my sister and brother, and he sat us down one day and told us that he had a drug problem and that it was damaging his marriage, right? Mm-hmm. And that one thing that he did stayed with me, and that is the grounding from which I build my coaching practice on: being transparent and being vulnerable, right? Right. And so that's something that he passed along to me, and I realized that it was a freedom to it, because he did remain clean for a while after that, and he just, you know, he had a moment of weakness, and like I think he was clean for maybe like 10 years, and then he had a moment of weakness, and then it was like, you know, when you 50, you can't do what you did when you was 30. Yeah. But again, it was something that was taught to me, and I had to find my own way, because I was hurting and screaming inside, and I was in a lot of pain. And I can't deal with anxiety. And I know so many people who have to take medicine for it. I know so many people who struggle with anxiety, and it's like, it's not fun. So I was like, I want to be free. I got to talk. I got to get this off me.
And that's how you worked on getting to that freedom. You were just expressive about it. Like, who were you expressive about it with? Like, how did you find that, I guess, not necessarily accountability partner, but that listening ear to help you through it?
Well, I'm a man of faith. I literally like laid on the floor prostrate for like every night, crying out to God. And I spoke to, you know, mentors, some pastors in my church, and I actually went to therapy, which I highly recommend. It's awesome. And, you know, I believe God just put some, you know, wonderful people in my life to hold me accountable.
Got you.
That I can be transparent with. Yeah.
Yeah. That therapy piece is huge, man. It's really huge. You know, when it's crazy hearing you talk like that, because, you know, we go through these situations like every day as men, but that's the last thing we want to do, is go talk to a stranger about our problems. It's like, if we can't talk to our spouse about it, what makes you think that I'm going to go and possibly pay someone, if you can't get a job, to get that professional help?
But here's the thing, is that, you know, men in general, we, you know, as far as like emotional intelligence, we're quite low. Let's
put it out there.
So a lot of times, I'm not, present company excluded. No,
that's fair, man.
No.
But
that's a fair statement.
But, you know, we don't have the language for what it is that we're experiencing. We don't know how to say that we're overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Like, that's a very, you know, that's not a man's That's
Because a lot of times, as a man, you're not supposed to be over him. You're supposed to be the one who can
You can
to
handle anything. Yep. 1,000 things thrown at you, you can handle 1,002. Let's go.
But see, that's a false narrative. Because who can do that?
Nobody
Exactly.
can.
And that's why I end up having, nervous breakdowns and reaching
so many people are on meds, like record numbers. So many people are on prescription medicine right now for depression and for anxiety.
Let's talk about that for a
It's
second.
that being pushed to cope and suppress things instead of talk about and get them in the open to, actually get over them and understand why.
But that's what I was going to say. Is like a lot of us don't know that we don't know that we don't know. So you know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of us don't understand the pathology of why it is that we are depressed, right? Because there's a pathology to it, and it's something that is built and learned over time. Just like, not to be controversial, even some forms of schizophrenia are a coping mechanism, right? So that it's built in a process over time to protect themselves, and it's like we protect ourselves. So like if you can't just go to a therapist and just say, I'm feeling depressed about this. No, more often than not, that depression was something that's been lingering for a long time. And now it's coming, the depression is now speaking so loud that you got to say something about it. And then you become so detached. We become so detached as a society and as men that we can't even trace to where it came back from. And so you got to spend at least a good 6 months to a year in therapy to dig in just to get to the pathology.
And understand, man. It was because I didn't get that apple when I was 2 years old, bro.
Right. Listen, straight up. I, to this day, if you tell me you're going to do something for me and you don't do it, I'm devastated. Why? Because my dad told me when I was 5, he was going to take me fishing, and I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning and he did not take me fishing. That stayed with me. And now I understand why I'm that way. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't get to that place until
you didn't know that. You didn't know that that's how you were handling it from before and why. Yep.
Right. And so emotionally, I was still 5 years old.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? So what happens is like we're 37, but we're really 5 years old emotionally. And that's because we haven't been given, because we have not been given the language, or we don't know how to process our emotions. So as a society, they're building us to be something, robots that we can't be. We're humans, we're flesh and blood. Like there's no way we can be who society wants us to be. That definition of what masculinity is.
So it sounds like we need to be more intentional, because if we leave it up to nature, I've heard many times that the brain is built, or we are built as humans to survive. Like that's like our core. Like that's what we're designed to do. So
right, and so we're built to survive, right? Which is coping, right? Which is what
exactly.
But you have to program yourself to thrive, and that's a step beyond survival.
Exactly.
And that's what we have to do as men.
That transition.
Yeah, we can no longer settle for just making it and surviving. Mentally, we got to get to a place where we thrive, and we want to create a wonderful legacy for our children.
And that is very important. That point right there is very important. And the things that you do to get yourself to thrive, it's amazing. You spoke about that freedom. I'm going to speak about the weight. Like when you start expressing yourself and, your emotional intelligence grows a little bit, or a lot of it. Because for me, it took a while. And I spoke about it the last time, how my lady always begging for me to, be more expressive. I mean, we just had a conversation about this like yesterday. It's about some stuff that's going on that I'm just not really ready to talk about. Right. But when we find those instances or those issues, and I actually do let it off my chest, whether it be the same day or a few days later, the release is the release.
Real.
It's like
real.
That dopamine starts going off.
That dopamine starts going off. And then think about it. You mentioned dopamine, right? So then I think BJ, you mentioned that the schools you work with, a lot of the kids are impoverished communities, right? Mm-hmm. The dopamine receptors are their brains are wired differently when you grow up in impoverished settings. So like their dopamine receptors are not even working properly.
Yep.
So then you're dealing with that, right? So many of us, if you didn't grow up in a regular nuclear home, mom and dad type of situation, your dopamine receptors are not normal in comparison to a child who had a 2-parent home, who grew up in a normal, quote unquote, normal situation. So you're already at a disadvantage. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's imperative. And so I'm not saying all all black men or men in general didn't have fathers growing up, but there's a lot who did not have fathers growing up.
Right.
So you got to think that added on to everything else.
Gotcha.
You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the medication portion of it.
Yeah.
In your experience, how is it really that effective when they put people on these like antidepressants? Because I have a few friends that have gone through rough times and they've been on these things or had to go on it for a period of time. And even though it took them kind of out of that depressed state, it turned them into something else. They didn't even like.
Mm-hmm.
They became like shells of themselves. Their personality had zombie.
So here's the thing, right? We have to, like, persecution is part of life, right? Downtime, depression is not necessarily a bad thing, right? You sometimes have to go through a depression to become something new, to grow in life, right? And I think the problem is like we wanna absolve ourselves from the pain, but sometimes it's the pain that makes you grow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think immediately when we start feeling depression, and like now because we're so money driven and you have these pharmaceutical companies that sponsor these therapists, right? Mm-hmm. So they're going to throw the medication at you. And here's the thing, like there's evidence and studies that show there are people that are curing themselves of schizophrenia and multiple personalities. And part of what they're doing is taking ownership for their lives and ownership for the mistakes that they've made or the pain that they've caused other people and face the truth. And really a lot of anxiety is triggered by repressed guilt.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
So once you start
owning your life and taking responsibility for certain things, that a lot of that stuff subsides. Mm-hmm. And a lot of stuff that people are going through, like, listen, I'm positive that all of us could share a very sad story of life what we've been through, right? All of us can. But we made it through.
Exactly.
And we're no different than other people. And I'm not saying that some people, that medicine doesn't work. There are some instances where medicine is appropriate. Like I said, there are some people literally who have bipolar, but not everybody has bipolar. That number that they're giving is largely inflated. It's very few people who actually have bipolar disorder.
Gotcha. The other thing I wanted to hit on, man, I thought was really, really, it was a crazy statistic when I looked at the suicidal attempts amongst our youth. So, when I was doing my research, I found that, the suicide attempts were growing amongst our African-American youth past those of other races.
Right.
Now, and I know you had mentioned that you had looked up some numbers that were showing that the actual suicide rate, like people were successfully committing suicide at a rate much higher than our white counterparts or other races within America.
Yeah, young men of color.
Yes, and I really think it's important that we hone in on that, especially as fathers, so that we can, impact that in a negative way. We want that number to go down, but it's crazy how much our children are suffering with these things, and sometimes as parents, we may never know.
Yes, because you got to think about it. It was some stuff you going through that your parents didn't know.
Exactly.
Right. But I definitely, I will tell you the impact that you guys will have on your children by being the example for them will make it safe for them to come talk to you. And I always encourage fathers. I said, share with your sons and your daughters something about yourself that you probably normally wouldn't share with them. Because that creates what it does, right? You are in the practitioner seat and your child is in the patient seat, right? So you guys are kind of like therapists, right? And so the space between you guys is called the intersubjective field, right? That's where transformation happens, right? But because of the way society's built, people love a story. People are attached to a story, no matter if it's millennials or baby boomers. Everybody's attached to a story. So I always encourage fathers, tell them a story about yourself that doesn't paint you in a flattering light. Because what that does is that makes a level playing field and they will open up to you. I've seen it happen over again.
You're not perfect. You haven't always been perfect.
You have not always been perfect.
100%. That is the truth. The more, and I think that too many people get obviously caught in trying to be best friends instead of understanding, like, you have a job as a parent of, raising a new member of society. And It's okay if they are upset because you're not allowing them to do something that they shouldn't do. or not have something that they shouldn't have. It's okay for a child, a human being, anybody to cry and be upset, especially when it's validated. Yes, you should be upset that you did something wrong and you know, now there's a punishment. And yes, that punishment should be absorbed. You should feel the pain of it and the understanding of, okay, I did something wrong, so you can correlate and relate it to what's going on and then be a better person moving on to know, you know what, maybe I shouldn't do those things that, you know, are getting me in trouble or that are, you know, causing me, you know, to have my parents be angry at me.
Right. And they'll open that up once you make it safe for them to do so. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's like I said, like when my dad told us that he had a drug problem, that made it safe for me to tell him things about me.
Right. So forming that relationship, building that bridge, very, very important.
Being tangible as a parent.
Yeah, especially when you get into those, you know, middle school, high school years, man, because that's when the disconnect seems to happen you know, much more.
Well, that's where the frontal lobe is forming and the, you know, neural pathways are developing. So it's like, you got to get them there. You got to get them there. Yeah.
Got you. One more thing I want to hit on as far as the adults are concerned. Fresh shared a story with us about a breakup he had in college and how that was like a really big trigger for him, and it kind of sent him, you know, into a depressed state that for a moment, you know, he came out of it or whatever. But how often do you see, or how best is it to deal with when you have that breakup with, or feel like you've lost a piece of yourself in that situation, so that we're able to help those that are kind of currently going through that or have gone through that in the past?
Well, I mean, listen, a breakup is very terrible. Even if it's a friendship, it's terrible because this is somebody who you become vulnerable with, right? Who has been a safe space for you. And to know that, you know, what he missed was more than just, I'm sure, intimacy, the physical intimacy, but it was the emotional intimacy that he also missed as well. That's what we really miss. And the way a person made you feel, right? And that's a hard thing to let go of. Right? Because it's like, how often does it happen?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a real thing, and it's nothing, it's expected and it's normal. To be honest with you, it's normal. Now, when it gets to a place where it's like, you know, going into 3 months, then we have to start coming in and start doing some work. Okay, you know what I mean? Now it's like your emotions, again, if you don't understand what you're experiencing, if you don't understand that you're grieving and you don't understand the process of grieving, you're going to be ignorant to what's happening. And then you're going to, you know, start going, you know what I mean? Start making crazy decisions, and then it just spirals out of control. But I think the first thing we're dealing with the breakup is acknowledging that you're hurt. That's the first stage. Acknowledge that you're hurt sooner than later.
So do you believe in terms of confronting the person that hurt you, or is it just an acknowledgement between yourself, like, I'm hurt, I'm good, or?
That's a good question, Mike. I got to answer.
I think it really depends. I think it's like if you guys had a conversation and it was like, she's like, yo, I think we should end the relationship, and y'all had, you know, she gives her reasons, and you guys have your conversation. I definitely think it's better to just kind of grieve on your own. Now, there's certain instances where you do need to confront people, possibly, right? After you have processed, of course.
Right.
After you have processed and you got into a place of forgiveness. Now, forgiveness does not mean that you excuse the behavior. But forgiveness is for you so that person no longer has a power over you. And that piece of your heart is no longer under their lordship.
Right. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that a lot because they confuse the terms forgiveness and justice. Because when you get into those situations,
yes,
like the forgiveness is for you. Justice is, you know, for that person, if that's what you're looking for. But if you can actually forgive them, like you said, not excusing it, you're able to kind of move past that. And I mean, like you said, I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because in my experience, like, yeah, you have to process the breakup. You have to get to a space where you're okay. But I think confronting that person and kind of getting that out it allows that healing process to go to the next step, because, you know, you think about it, you lost a piece of yourself. You're basically trying to, you know, rebuild yourself. Hopefully, you know, maybe not all of us find ourselves in this situation, but hopefully you have a large sense of self where your foundation isn't rocked too hard, that you have something to, you know, fall back on, and, you know, you can continue to love yourself so that you don't do too many things that are destructive to yourself. But I definitely think that confrontation between whoever that person was is almost necessary to continue to get past that person.
Right, but I definitely think it's like a matter of saying your piece about it, but not having any expectations.
Yeah.
All right.
I got a question, man. Going back to how, you know, like the suicide rate with our youth today, you know, like, so what role as adults, especially as you know, black males, what role as adults do we play in that? Because so often we tell the youth, you know, oh, y'all not really going anything too crazy, or like, yo, y'all like, yo, just you know, like, it's really not that serious. You know what I mean? You kind of downplay what they may be going through, because it's like, yo, we went through the same things. They're like, there's nothing new under the sun. You hear phrases like that all the time, but just because we went through it in the light that we went through it, everybody's different. So what role as adults do we play? Like, when do we need to be that stern, like, yo, you know, just tough it out, it'll get better, and when do we need to be that more passionate and compassionate side as well?
Well, I will ask you this. So, I definitely think being the example is paramount. So, like, getting yourself healed is, you know, going through the process and dealing with those issues within yourself, I think is very, very paramount. And also, like, I think it's important to understand your, you know, emotional intelligence works both ways, right? So it's being able to discern what's happening within you, and also being able to discern what's happening in another person, right? So I definitely think for us, what we can do is make ourselves available and just listen. Active listening, right? Like, active listening involves listening to what they say and listening to what they don't say, right? Going with your gut instincts. And then also, like, I would shy away from language like toughen up.
And why is that?
Because that's what they've been doing the whole time.
It sounds like it assumed that they weren't being tough to begin with. So.
Right. Or what they think tough, you know, what they think tough is. You understand?
Yeah, their definition of tough now is
like put on that shield, put on that armor, take it, hold it, and, you know, just deal with it instead of.
It goes back to what you said previously about formulating their mindset in those beginning stages. Like, what do you tell them, what you're pouring into them? That's how they're building their vocabulary.
But I think with us, we have such a wonderful opportunity to be such a different version of what a man is defined as. Like, we have an opportunity as a generation of men to, like, really be men for our young men. Like, and what I mean by that is, like, teaching them how to be responsible, taking ownership for your life and the decisions that you make. And if you hurt, admit that you're hurt. If you want to cry, cry. And going through the process before them, but still moving forward, that's strength. You know what I mean? Like, I'm down, I'm hurt right now, but you know what? I'm gonna keep going through. And I realized, like, just even my own personal narrative, like, I was molested, I was bullied severely growing up, and I didn't realize that I had strength inside of me because I kept going. And there were times where I did want to end my life, but something inside of me just said, keep going, keep going, keep going. And here I am today, you know, one of the thought leaders on healthy masculinity, and I was attacked most of my life for my masculinity.
Exactly. I think that's a compelling story, man. I definitely appreciate you coming on the show and giving us that enlightenment, that knowledge. I think we covered a lot, and I think one of the biggest takeaways, or the big thing that we hit on so much today, was that strength. And, you know, what is the true strength? You know, is it bottling it up and, you know, becoming a hard, you know, shell of yourself and dealing with it? Or is it actually taking the time to deal with your emotions? And I think that's what we've proven, or tried to prove to the listener today, man. Take that opportunity. If you're going through things, be more expressive, you know, seek that help. Look for ways that you can work through the situation that are beneficial to yourself and not detrimental to yourself.
Absolutely. And definitely just, you know, and it sounds cliche, but you're not the only one going through it. It's a Bible study teacher by the name of Chris Birch. He says this quote that men scream at a frequency that only they can hear. And how true is that, right? How many every brother on this podcast right now can raise their hands to that.
Exactly.
So just know that you're not alone.
Right.
And really it takes an act of bravery. But be brave, man, and just say, yo, I'm not well. It's okay to not be okay. It truly is. Most of us are not okay.
Right.
Yep.
So, man, before we move on to the other segments of the show, man, how can our listeners, get connected with you if they're seeking some type of help?
You can check me out on all my social media handles, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's Pervis Taylor. My website is www.pervistaylor.com, where you can also get my books, Pervis Principles, Volumes 1 and 2. And if you would like to book an appointment, you can book via my website.
Easy, man. Appreciate you. Where we going next, man? I'm going to Fresh Jam or Arts Corner? I guess I got to take over Arts Corner this week, right?
Ooh, what you gotta? What's really grinding your gears this week? What is grinding your gears?
Man, I don't think anything's really grinding my gears. So I know. This is crazy. So Saturday, and this is just like I guess a life testament. So Saturday, there were two situations at the job. Now one, I want to just put this out there early. I wasn't supposed to work Saturday. I ended up switching with somebody to be able to go to this wedding for one of the bros and my lady's line sister on Sunday. So I originally wasn't supposed to be here on Saturday. I go to work, it's a long day. I'm closing myself. I'm the most senior buyer at the job. And we get the two customer service situations that come in. One of them is a dude. He came in earlier in the week, got his car appraised, left, everything was fine. Came in Thursday, got his car appraised, left, everything was fine. He comes back Saturday saying that he got his car appraised and there was some issues with his braking system thereafter. Now, I know that there's nothing we do during the appraisal that is going to wreck your brakes to the point where they're metal to metal. They're grinding like crazy. Like even if you take your foot off the brake and you just let the car coast, you hear the brakes like touching the metal or whatever. And there are a few other red flags. He came to the store smelling like, herbally fresh. He had some paraphernalia in his car because I took a test drive.
My man was medication and
he was medicated.
Medicinal,
he was medicated.
Yeah, glaucoma. Exactly.
Yeah. So, and he was acting a little out of character or whatever. You could tell it was something more going on. So, me and him go back and forth about, the issue with his brakes. And his story switches at one point. So he's just not cool at this point. So I know he's trying to get something out of us. So at the end, I'm like, look, man, it's really nothing, we can do for you. It happened because of your mistreatment of your car. Like it's wear and tear, it's maintenance. You got to get your brakes done. And he's like, oh, so this is all your guys can do for me? I'm like, yeah, it's not our fault. Your brakes are done. Send him on his way. When I sent him on his way, something like just was bothering me on the inside. Like it was like, okay, I don't know if I did the right thing here, even though I know he's not deserving of anything. I feel like he's trying to get over, you know what I'm saying? I don't think that situation ended the best way it could have ended. And then I'm thinking from a corporate standpoint now, I was like, okay, he's gonna go leave this negative survey. He's gonna blow my survey up, and then he's gonna call corporate and they're gonna give him whatever he asked for anyway, right? So about 15 minutes goes by, I do another appraisal, and then I just find his information and I call him. And I'm like, look, we thought about the situation a little bit more. He's a CarMax customer, so he's bought a car from us. So I'm like, listen, what we can do for you, we'll give you, we'll look at your brakes, we'll set an appointment, and we'll give you the job if whatever needs to be done at cost. So we don't lose any money, you get a reduced rate, whatever. When I tell you this dude almost like jumped through the phone, like he was elated, like I had just given him the best thing ever, and it was only just like a discounted brake job. And here I am thinking this dude doesn't deserve anything, and he's just happy. He's going to try and get as much out of me as he can, but he's happy with what I gave him. And then there was another situation later on that evening where this couple comes in, and their car, we appraised it beforehand and just didn't give them, enough money for the vehicle at the time. And I was, kind of adamant of going behind my other buyer to check the car because, there's a certain level of integrity. And, when we're in, the office, you want to kind of make sure that you're not stepping on anybody's toes. But when I go look at the offer and look at the data and everything, I'm like, this isn't matching up. Maybe they are right. You know, they do deserve a little bit more money. And so I give them that, you know, I up their appraisal offer and they sell the condos. So I say all that, say, when you feel something in your heart and your soul and you know something isn't right, or you feel like you there is something more you can do, just do it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's on your mind for a reason. And like I said, I wasn't even supposed to work Saturday. So obviously I was there to impact those 2 lives for a specific reason. So that's B. Jones's Corner for the week.
Hey,
you have it on your heart. It's on your mind. Go ahead, man.
Go on, do that thing. Exactly. Let it go and make it take action.
You was right for that, man. If it's on your heart and your mind, I tell people all the time, don't second guess it. Just do it. If that means calling somebody, if that means walking down the street, knocking on the neighbor's door, it's on your mind, it's on your heart for some reason, don't second guess it.
I agree.
Let the church say amen.
Amen.
Yes.
DJ,
Yes.
be fresh.
Yes.
What you got for us this week, man?
It's ironic because I think one of the points you were making was take control. You know, you need to take control, just like we were talking about Janet Jackson control the other week, which, you know, by the way, Pervis, we're not going to talk about how some people on this call didn't even know
Listen,
sang
man.
that song. Why you put yourself out there? I wouldn't.
Listen,
I mean, I try to be nice.
I don't even understand who we talking about. Like,
You
some
didn't know
people.
who sang Control, bro?
I'm the
I
one.
absolutely knew who sang Control. This is that propaganda machine we talking about.
Yeah,
Fake news. It's fake news.
Hey, B.
Fox,
Jones
so we
did
got
I'm
to
the
put
one.
Fox in my
I put it.
on my Bible. But anyway, the song is called Control. The artist is Malik Berry.
He was at Made in America.
Yeah,
They subbed him in for Wizkid.
Word, great sub. I think he's actually from Miami area because I know he's of Haitian descent. But first jam of the week, yo. Here we go. Oh, don't do that though.
You tell me say you don't want to waste time, you said them other girls have been standing line, you tell me say they go watch from slow wine, you say you want to take control,
Taste out that
say you
Bob
want to
exactly.
take
You feel me?
Give him up. Give it up.
You say my dog Haitian?
Yeah.
See the way they roll it to fair back. Control. So my baby want to take control. That's sexy, got a balance. So you want to take charge. Okay, girl, I know mine.
It's crazy, man. Like, you hear all these good vibes, and it's like the end of the summer, and you know it's already getting darker early. It's like, geez, man, I'm gonna have to hold on to these.
dark.
I mean, it's gonna be still summer in my head, man. I'm not gonna let it go.
Hey, hold on to something. I think that's something that people don't do enough, man. Hold on to summer. Don't let just because the weather changes and things start to change allow you to get out of that space and that vibe. So that's why, you know, you bring control. That right there, you take control and you bring control and you go ahead and let that vibe ride on out.
That's how you break it down. You gotta take it back.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yes, sir.
So, do you guys talk about current affairs on here?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I wanted to know what you guys thought about Kevin Hart.
I don't know the whole story, man. My lady was trying to talk to me about that junk yesterday. All I know is something. You're gonna have to give me the story because I don't think I'm piecing it together right.
So basically, like a couple months ago, somebody had on the phone camera him in the car, allegedly in the car with another woman, right? While his wife was pregnant, you know, back home. He denied the rumors. He denied and said it wasn't him, blah, blah, blah. But apparently the young lady from that same exact situation must have had her own camera or recorded them in a sexual act, and she attempted to
They attempted to extort.
Kevin Hart
ain't going for it. Kevin Hart ain't going for it.
He took over the podcast. He called
Kevin said, no. Pineapples.
Yeah, so he called in Olivia Pope, and now he released the video saying, you know, he made a bad mistake and the girl's trying to.
That was Okay, so that was the video I saw him talking about
Him
something. He made a
apologizing
mistake,
for
apologizing to the
something.
world or whatever.
Yes.
So what exactly is your question?
I just want to know what you guys think about it as men.
Man, so I'm really disheartened. One,
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
I know.
No pun intended.
cause it's on your wife, your rib, who you were crazy emphatic about. This is your rib. This is everything, you know. And a lot of people was trying to crucify Kevin when he left his children's mother or wife for this
And he was
person.
supposed to be with her while he was still married to the other chick.
And
Yeah, so he
And?
did. So he's showing a
He's
behavior.
already
Pattern.
exactly. He's already habitually shown the pattern of what he's going to do. I think with me, it's more. Am I shocked? No. You know, I think that I guess it's kind of like it's not that it's unexpected because his how quickly he propelled in his success and like especially as long as he was working and grinding and kind of
Right.
thought he had came to, you know, where he was successful in his mind. I think, you know, around the Soul Plane and everything, okay, I'm doing movies and I'm doing stuff that he thought he was good then, and then all of a sudden he just took off. That, you know, that access opens doors and opportunities that, you know, just like he said, he put himself in a situation he shouldn't have, in the sense of as a man, you have to be able to take the onus and responsibility of all your actions. And even just because you're a superstar celebrity, if you put yourself behind closed doors with attractive females and no, you know, inhibitions, and you know the possibility, it's just putting yourself in the possibility
In
of
those
something going
situations.
down. You have to be smarter. It's totally it's not that it's understandable, but it's, hey man, if you make your bed like that, you're going to ruin it. And being able to, like I said, that with great fame and power comes great responsibility. It's hard to be able to go from the guy that everybody acted like was nobody to all of a sudden now you're the king and everybody acts like you're the man. And that's a power trip in your head to be able to stay grounded enough to know that you're still, as much as he plays the talk of he's the same guy, he's been the same, and he rolls the same way, it's impossible. Because when you go from just being a guy to being the guy, it changes everything.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how so many people, like, there's great debate on social media. They're like, well, he apologized. I said, well, he had to.
Yeah.
He only apologized. And then, I mean, we find ourselves in that situation all the time.
Had they never asked for money, he was not going to, that was not going to be put on Front Straight. He was going to do the same thing that, you know, a lot of
99% of
influential,
every man.
you know what I mean, influential and you know, powerful men do, of the, until you have a camera on me in the act, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, it wasn't me. Straight up, Shaggy, it wasn't me.
Yeah, it's the same concept. Like, yo, like, you're not sorry that you did it. You're sorry that you got caught that you did it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, he not sorry
Yes.
that he. I mean, like, I think he, like, yeah, because he wasn't.
He is sorry he did it, but it wouldn't have come out if he hadn't got caught.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so how sorry was he? You know, you got.
I don't think he's as sorry as he's going to be yet.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if he was truly remorseful for his act, then it wouldn't have to come out the way that it did. You know what I mean? He would have already had this conversation with his lady.
Well, I think it's the monetary factor. You know, because he actually got the FBI involved because it went past it just being like a, hey, you know, I want a couple $100,000 maybe to, you know, I want millions. And I'm not even sure if the female that is in the video is the one who is the alleged, you know, person.
In the car.
Yeah, no, not the person in the car, is the person who's trying to get the money. But also, I heard that chick in the car, that was like, it was her and some other female, like he was having a threesome in the video. That it wasn't just like him and hers, that it was a threesome video. Yeah.
You in trouble, brother. In trouble.
It's about to go down.
Yeah, that's
So
all
one
bad.
of the biggest things, again, you talk about being from a man to being the man. what people don't realize is that once you make those moves like that, it don't have to be as big as the jump he made. It could be you moving up in
the company. You was a
you
worker to the manager.
You don't have to frame it as an entertainer.
People are looking for a way to move up from there, and they don't care about bringing you down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Plus your public.
People do this. I'm trying to grab onto what you got up there, pull myself up.
I've done some TV. I've done just a little bit of TV, and bruh, DMs is crazy from married women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. So it's like, you're right, BJ. Like, honestly, you don't have to be famous. Just doing your.
That's what it is. As soon as you get that tape, really,
you're the come up. You're the payday.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's been like that for a while. But now with social media, it's even worse because everybody sees what you're doing, and we just think we're doing something. You're just doing what you're supposed to do. But other people are saying, "Yeah, I'm about to get him. I'm about to go get him." It's a plot.
Sizing you up. Oh yeah,
exactly.
So Jay, you said something about the being sorry he got caught, or if he was really truly remorseful, he would have had a conversation up front with his lady. And this might end up being tabled, to the next podcast because we going on about an hour now. Yeah. But I do want to respond to that because I think you gotta look at it. If you've done this, and maybe he is remorseful, I don't know what's in Kevin Hart's head. But say you step outside of your relationship and you realize what you have done is wrong and everything, but you're still very selfish.
Absolutely.
And you're still very selfish because you don't want to put yourself and that other person through that rebuilding process. Now, so that's why I say I don't necessarily know if he wasn't truly remorseful, because I think you can be truly remorseful, but we as men,
being
emotional intelligence
of the conversation.
Okay, so what you're saying is
that you want to push it down. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You want to act like it never happened, because if it didn't happen, it didn't happen. You could suppress.
Well, it's you don't know what the outcome of that conversation is going to be, and it's better to
you don't.
So 100% is selfish.
I said that,
but I think Ian hit the nail on the head. With, like, there's so many things. Like, you used to be the guy that people made fun of. Now you're that guy. So that's trauma right there. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to outlive that. It could be, let me sleep with as many women as possible so I can show y'all I'm the man.
Yep. So that's what the fame. That's what I was gonna say, is that fame is when the outer voices can outweigh your negative thoughts of yourself. When you get to the point when everybody is telling you how great you are, even though you're sitting there like, oh, well, I didn't think I was great at this, but you are the greatest. You are the great. That's what it comes, and you start to lose that consciousness.
So, but my question to you, B. Jones, so if you step out, right, and you realize I made a mistake. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I was thinking. But you say to yourself, I will never ever do this again. Mm-hmm. Is that a pass to not tell your lady?
Say again. I think Kevin Hart was trying to get in again.
I said, is that a pass to not tell your lady because you tell yourself?
Is it a pass?
It's because you tell yourself that I will never do this again.
Nah, it's absolutely not a pass. So, I'm just in the mindset of I'm trying to be in the mindset of the.
It's I think a lot of things that Pervis has said today, especially with dealing with issues. It's not a one size fits all type issue, and so I think it's also about understanding and knowing your partner and whether or not the ramifications of how off handle they can get with dealing with that situation. If you know that you made a mistake, that was a true one-time thing that you are hoping you're not going to be put in that position again.
Because the fact of the matter is, even if you say I opened the door and I'm gonna close it, that door can never really be closed. Exactly. It will always stay cracked. It will forever be cracked now. So
100%.
How can you say you never do it again?
Here's the thing. Is like, it's better to tell.
I'm gonna answer that question
before you're found out. It's better to tell than to be found out.
100%. Exposure versus we
live in a receipts culture. Culture.
Yeah.
So ain't nothing saved. So it's like, you better tell before it come out.
When you transition from being reactive to proactive, you're in control.
Absolutely.
No.
Leave it on that. Leave it on that.
We're going to leave it on that. Ladies and gentlemen, you can get connected with us. You can follow us on Facebook at Fledgeology at 13th Floor, please. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram as well at 13th Floor, please. Reminder, this podcast is brought to you by the motivators at Fledgeology, where the mantra is leap, grow, fly. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Pervis, thank you again for coming and spending some time with us on the 13th Floor.
Thank you, brothers.
You the first guest to not try to complain about the furniture. We appreciate that.
That's what it is, man. So we done here on the 13th floor, ladies and gentlemen, where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing.
Holla!
Now
all day, baby.
is your time to
We're
flex.
gonna learn today. We're gonna learn today. All right, all right.